Hi everyone, welcome back to Spark Teacher Training. Today we're going to cover how to put the games that you've created and that the students will create onto a mobile device. A couple things to keep in mind. Right now we're setting this up at the end of our project. We've spent the last couple of weeks setting up a Scratch project, and now we're going to be making it mobile. My suggestion to you is when your students are making their games, make sure that they set up the mobile app first, so that way they can test their games directly on the mobile device. Certain things don't translate exactly between Scratch and a mobile device, so you want to make sure that they're testing it often so that they don't run into any issues between the two. A quick example is that a mobile device obviously doesn't have a mouse cursor. It goes uses the cursor as wherever the person is touching the screen, but that also means that the person can't tap or click as well, because the tap is basically moving the mouse around. So there's not really anything like a mouse click in a mobile device. So just make sure that they test it, make sure things are working. If you have any questions on how that works, feel free to email us at the contact form on our website. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into our project that we've been working on, our Kitty Drop project, which, if you remember, is basically just Scratch the cat in the middle, catching fish. This is the one we've been working on for a little while. So really all we need to do to start this process off is we need to find the ID of our project. And every Scratch project, if you look at the address bar up at the top of the screen, the ID is a number that comes after the word projects / the project ID number. So we need that project ID number in order to get our game into our mobile tool. So what we're going to do is just copy and paste it, Control-C or Command-C if you're on a Mac. You can right-click, copy, whatever you want to do. Write it down. We need to know that number. So the next thing we're going to do with that number is we're going to put it into a tool called Spark Igniter. So if you go to sparkappleague.com/igniter, you'll pull up the Spark Igniter interface, and it's a really simple interface. All you have to do, I've already filled in, or the Igniter interface already has filled in the main part of the Scratch address. All you have to do is fill in the project ID number. So I'm just going to paste that in, and you'll see right away when you paste that ID number in, it compiles the game really quickly, and then gives you kind of a preview up at the top of the screen right away. Okay, this is probably the easiest way to get it going. Issue, I guess, maybe not issue, but just something to take note of. The mouse cursor does technically work here, even though this is the mobile version of the game. Once we actually test it on an iPhone, though, you'll see kind of the difference between what's happening and where the cursor is and everything like that. So once you kind of test the game a little bit, just make sure that it runs pretty much the way that you expect it to run, the way that it was running in the Scratch editor. There shouldn't be too much of a difference, but what we need to do now is Igniter gives you a few different options. You can package the project or embed it into a website. So we're going to choose the option to package the project, and all packaging does is it sets it up so that all of the Scratch files and all of the Igniter files are kind of together in one spot so that we can put it on a mobile device. It gets downloaded to the mobile device, and then we don't need internet access anymore to run our projects. So we have a few options for packaging. Number one that we definitely want is full screen, especially if you're on an iPad or a tablet of some sort, an Android tablet. You definitely want to enable the full screen option, because by default our Scratch stage that we've been working on is the same size as it is while we're working on it in that editor, which is really only about 480 pixels wide. Most tablet displays are much wider than that, so we just want to make sure that our game fills up as much of the screen as possible. So we definitely want that option turned on, and then depending on how the game runs, this is something that you'll want to test. There's a turbo mode. Turbo mode basically just allocates a little bit more memory for the game to help speed it up a little bit. In most cases you will not need to turn this on, and in some cases it may actually be detrimental to your game. So my suggestion would be to leave it turned off at first, package the app up, go through the rest of the process, test it out, and then based on whether or not the game is running slowly or not, Then you can come back, enable turbo mode, re-update your package, and then re-add it to the mobile device. Test it out, see if that works any better. So for right now, we're going to leave that option turned off. You also have the option of embedding this on a website. If the students want to do it, the Igniter framework already automatically comes up with the code that you need to put it on the website. You can hide the user interface if you want, and if it's going to be displayed on a dark background like this, you can use these light controls, which just means light colored controls. Otherwise they'll be black, so black on black obviously won't show up. So you can change the user interface back and forth from here. But for the most part, we're going to, again, stick with the package. So I'm going to click on full screen, make sure that's turned on. I'm going to hit package, and what I should get is a brief loading screen along with the full Spark Igniter game window. So this is essentially what it'll look like, okay? That's the gist of the process. I'm going to close out of this now. We don't technically need that open. So now we're going to switch to our actual device. In this case, I'm going to be using an iPhone simulator on my Mac, but this process will work exactly the same on an actual iPhone, an iPad. If you have an Android tablet or a Windows phone or a Windows tablet, same process will apply because it's just happening in a web browser as a web app. It should work on any device. I'm only using the simulator because it's easier to record. But I'm going to open up my web browser, and I'm going to go to sparkappleague.com/Igniter, the same website we just went to. And once I load Igniter, all I need to do is paste in that same project ID in the same place that we had it before. Okay, we just need Igniter to load the project once outside of the mobile device so that it has some of the assets already processed. It'll take a few minutes, just like it did on the desktop version, or a few seconds, to actually load up the entire project. Once the project's loaded, you'll see that same preview. But what you will notice, though, is, as I mentioned before, it's not following my mouse cursor. Scratch is not following my mouse cursor, even though we programmed him to follow the mouse cursor. And the reason for that is because, again, phone doesn't have a mouse, so we need to tap on the screen. And any place we're touching the screen, that's where Scratch is going to go. Okay. So obviously you can see there's no way for you to really click on the screen if you're tapping it. So we need to make sure that when we're making our games, we're keeping that in mind. You want to make sure that you offer alternate control schemes, things like that, so that players can still use your game even when they're using a mobile device. So I've tested it for a little bit. It seems like it's working on the actual device. So I'm going to do that same process. I'm going to package it up. That'll open Spark Igniter in a brand new window and load the full version of the game. The base version that we just saw is kind of a preview. Sometimes it loads some of the assets at lower quality. This is the full version of the game. It's got full high quality assets, and all of the Igniter stuff is included in the package. So now we're going to hit the share button at the bottom of our iPhone. In your case, again, if you have an Android phone, you just want to choose the option to save the web app or save the page to your home screen or to your dashboard. So I'm going to save it to my home screen. I'm going to name it Kitty Drop just so that I have it exactly. You'll notice that it loads the Spark Ignite icon or Igniter icon by default. And once I add it to my home screen, it should automatically switch and I'll see the Kitty Drop icon on my home screen. So you'll have the Spark icon up there. Okay, now if we click on it, it'll open up as a native app. Again, it'll take a few seconds to load, but the game should load up right away. If we tilt the iPhone to the side, the game should rotate. And again, we just tap the screen, have Scratch move around. And that's pretty much all there is to make your game mobile friendly, or to get your game on a mobile device from a Scratch project. I do want to cover just something really quick. In the actual Scratch project, which I'll switch back to now, I'm going to load another project that we had, which is Etch-a-Cat. Here's just an example of something that we did specifically for a mobile device because there wasn't really any kind of control scheme that we could use, okay, because of the tapping issue. So in this case, we originally had this project as kind of a drawing program where you could move Scratch the cat around and he would draw a line behind him as long as you had the mouse clicked down. Again, the issue is that there's no way to differentiate between a click and a not a click on a mobile device. So what we did instead is we added some buttons that move Scratch the cat around. So this is a little bit more like an Etch-a-Sketch. You've got your up and down control here, your left and right control here. And then we set up a button to turn the pen on and off. So Scratch doesn't actually draw unless you tap this button to turn it on and off. If we look inside of the project, you can see that all I did was set up some messages so that we're broadcasting up, right, left, down, depending on the direction. And then Scratch himself just has an option to change his position when we click up, down, left, or right with those messages. Okay. We've also got our basic loop, which just puts the pen down or up depending on what our status is, and it clears the screen whenever you restart the project. So those are just an example of one way that you can implement a control scheme on a mobile device, so that you can kind of get over that hurdle of the tapping versus mouse control scheme. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to email us at our website, sparkappleague.com. Just tap the contact button in the upper right-hand corner and send us an email. If there's anything else I can do, you can also find me on the Slack channel. I'm on there all day, every day, so I can answer questions for you, and hopefully you can get these games on your mobile devices. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.